The wrench slipped from Ben Carter's greasy fingers for the third time, clattering against the metal floor of his small repair shop. He wiped sweat from his forehead and stared at the ancient cargo hauler's engine that had been giving him trouble for 2 weeks. The owner wanted it fixed for half the normal price, and Ben desperately needed every credit he could get. His shop sat on the edge of Dust Rock Station, far from the busy commercial district where customers usually went for repairs. The automated service bays there could fix most problems in hours, but they charged premium prices. Ben's place was different. He fixed things the hard way, with his own hands and old tools that his father had left him. Most people thought he was wasting his time. The station shook slightly as another mining ship docked somewhere in the distance. Dust Rock Station existed for one reason: to strip valuable minerals from the asteroid belt around a dying star. The work was dangerous and the pay was bad, but it kept thousands of humans employed on the frontier. Ben had tried mining once, but he was better with machines than with rock cutters. He picked up the wrench again and returned to the stubborn engine. The fuel injector was completely shot, and he would need to fabricate a replacement from spare parts. It would take days of careful work, but the alternative was telling his customer he could not help. Ben had never turned away a job, even when it meant working for almost nothing. A loud crash echoed through the station's outer hull, followed by emergency sirens. Ben paused his work and listened. Crashes happened sometimes when drunk pilots misjudged their approach, but this sounded different, bigger. He walked to his shop's small window and peered out at the asteroid field beyond. A sleek ship tumbled through space, trailing debris and glowing plasma. It was unlike any vessel Ben had seen before. The hull was silver and blue, with elegant curves that seemed to flow like water. Human ships were built like boxes with engines attached, but this craft looked almost alive. It spun slowly as it approached the station, clearly out of control. Ben watched the ship crash into the station's outer docking ring with a tremendous impact that shook his entire shop. Emergency lights flashed red, and he could hear the distant sound of rescue crews mobilizing. He grabbed his tool belt and headed for the door. Someone might need help. The crash site was a mess of twisted metal and scattered debris. Station security had already cordoned off the area, but Ben could see the damaged ship through the crowd. It had punched through the outer hull and come to rest in an unused storage bay. The fact that anyone survived the impact seemed impossible. "Stand back, everyone," called Chief Security Officer Davis. "We don't know if the ship is stable or if there are dangerous materials on board." Ben pushed through the crowd, his mechanic's curiosity overriding caution. The ship's design fascinated him. Every line and curve served a purpose, like a master craftsman's work. The damage was extensive, but the basic structure remained intact. Whoever built this vessel knew their business. A section of the ship's hull suddenly hissed open and a figure stumbled out. Ben's breath caught in his throat. It was clearly not human. The being was roughly human-sized, but with pale blue skin that had an almost metallic sheen. Her features were delicate and angular, with large eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the emergency lighting. She wore dark clothing that looked expensive, but was now torn and stained. The alien woman took a few unsteady steps before collapsing to her knees. Blood or something like it seeped from cuts on her arms and face. She looked around frantically, her glowing eyes wide with fear or pain. "Medical team to docking ring 7. Davis spoke into his communicator. "We have an injured alien survivor." Ben found himself moving forward before he realized it. The woman's gaze met his, and he saw intelligence there, along with desperate need. She tried to speak, but the words came out in a language he did not recognize. Then she switched to heavily, accented standard. "Please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My ship. I need help." "The medical team will be here soon," Ben said, kneeling beside her. "You're safe now?" She shook her head weakly. "No, not safe. Never safe. They will find me." Her eyes locked onto his with startling intensity. "You fix ships, yes? I see tools." Ben glanced down at his tool belt. "Yeah, I'm a mechanic, but you need a doctor, not a wrench turner." "Ship first," she insisted. "Must fix ship. Can pay." She fumbled inside her torn jacket and pulled out a small leather pouch. Even from a distance, Ben could see it contained crystals that sparkled like captured starlight. Each one was probably worth more than his shop. "Lady, I don't know what kind of trouble you're running from, but you don't need to pay me a fortune. I help people because it's the right thing to do." The alien woman stared at him as if he had spoken in an unknown language. "You would help? Without payment? The medical team can patch you up and I'll take a look at your ship. If it can be fixed, I'll fix it. Fair price, good work. That's how I do business." The medics arrived and began treating her injuries. As they worked, she kept watching Ben with those strange, glowing eyes. When they tried to take her to the medical bay, she refused. "I stay with ship," she said firmly. "And with him," she pointed at Ben. Chief Davis frowned. "Ma'am, we need to follow proper procedures for alien contact. There are protocols." "The protocols can wait," Ben interrupted. "She's hurt and scared. Let her make her own choices." After some argument, they reached a compromise. The medical team treated her injuries on site, and she was allowed to remain near her ship. She gave her name as Kira, and claimed to be a trader whose vessel had suffered mechanical failure while passing through the system. Ben examined the ship more closely as she rested. The damage was definitely not from mechanical failure. Scorch. Marks along the hull indicated energy weapon hits, and the hull breaches looked like they came from military-grade plasma cannons. Someone had been shooting at this ship and they had meant business. "Your ship took quite a beating," Ben said carefully. "Must have been some mechanical failure." Kira's eyes flickered and she looked away. "Yes, very bad failure." Ben did not press the issue. Everyone had secrets and he had learned not to pry into his customers' business. If she wanted to call a battle damage a mechanical failure, that was her choice. "I can fix it," he said instead. "Won't be pretty, and some of my repairs might not match your original systems, but I can get you flying again." For the first time since the crash, Kira smiled. It transformed her entire face, making her look younger and less frightened. "You would do this for me? Like I said, fair price, good work. That's my promise." As Ben began planning the repairs, he had no idea that his simple act of kindness would change both of their lives forever. 3 days of working on Kira's ship had taught Ben more about alien engineering than he ever thought possible. The vessel was a masterpiece of advanced technology, but it was also the most fragile thing he had ever tried to repair. Every system connected to every other system in ways that made no sense to his human mind. Ben lay on his back underneath the ship's main power coupling, wrestling with a bundle of fiber optic cables that seemed to change color based on their function. The entire power grid was like a spider web. Beautiful, efficient, and completely useless if even one strand broke. Human ships used separate systems with backups for the backups. If one thing failed, everything else kept working. This alien design was the opposite philosophy. "You are doing it wrong," Kira said from above him. She had been watching his every move for days, pointing out what she considered his mistakes. "Maybe," Ben grunted as he spliced 2 damaged cables together with electrical tape and wire nuts. "But my way will hold together when the pretty way falls apart." That is not how it is supposed to work. The neural matrix requires perfect synchronization between all pathways. Ben slid out from under the ship and wiped his hands on an old rag. "Look, Kira, your neural matrix is beautiful. I've never seen anything like it, but half the pathways are fried and I can't exactly order replacement parts from the local alien hardware store." He pointed to his repair setup. "See this mess of wires and junction boxes? It's ugly as sin, but it creates 5 separate backup routes for your data flows. If one path fails, the system switches to another automatically." Kira studied his work with obvious distaste. "It is so crude. Crude, but effective. That's human engineering for you." Over the past 3 days, Ben had learned quite a bit about his mysterious customer. She claimed to be a trader, but her hands were too soft and clean for someone who loaded cargo for a living. She spoke several languages fluently and seemed to know details about star charts and navigation that most traders would not bother learning. Most telling of all, she carried herself like someone used to being obeyed. But she was also genuinely curious about his work. She asked questions about everything he did, from why he used manual tools instead of automated systems, to how human Ships managed to function with such primitive designs. Her criticism stung sometimes, but Ben could tell she was beginning to respect his skills. "Why do you make everything so complicated?" Ben asked as he studied one of her ship's undamaged systems. "This gravity generator has 17 different control circuits when 3 would do the same job. Because it allows for precise adjustment of gravitational fields in different areas of the ship," Kira explained. "A diplomatic vessel requires exact control for the comfort of different species." "Diplomatic vessel?" Ben raised an eyebrow. "I thought you were a trader." Kira's blue cheeks darkened slightly. "I mean, trading vessel. We trade with many different species, so we need the adjustments." Ben decided not to push. Everyone had their stories, and he was getting paid either way. But he filed away another inconsistency to add to his growing list. The real challenge came when he reached the ship's navigation system. The quantum processors that handled faster-than-light calculations were completely destroyed. Without them, the ship could move at normal speeds but could not jump to hyperspace. "This is the problem," Ben said, pointing to the melted remains of the navigation core. "Everything else I can fix or work around, but this? I don't even know where to start." Kira studied the damage and her shoulders sagged. "Then we are trapped." "Here, not necessarily." Ben rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "I can't fix your quantum computer, but I might be able to rig up something that does the same job differently." He disappeared into his shop's storage room and emerged carrying several battered pieces of equipment. Kira watched in confusion as he began connecting mining computer cores to cargo hauler navigation units. "What are you doing?" "Building you a new navigation system out of spare parts. It won't be as fast or as elegant as your original, but it will calculate jump coordinates and get you where you need to go." "But those are mining computers. How can they perform quantum calculations?" Ben grinned. "They can't. But 6 of them working together can brute force the same answers your quantum processor gave you instantly. It'll take longer to calculate each jump, but it will work." Kira watched in fascination as Ben welded brackets and ran power cables. His hands moved with practiced confidence, turning a pile of seemingly unrelated junk into something that resembled a functioning system. "In the Celestial Empire," she said quietly, "we would never mix technologies like this. Each system is designed to work with specific compatible components." "The Celestial Empire?" Ben paused in his work. "That's pretty far from here. Long way. To come for a trading run." Kira froze, realizing her mistake. "I meant, we learned their techniques from trading with them." Ben nodded as if he believed her, but made another mental note. She was definitely not just a simple trader. As he worked, they talked about their different approaches to problem solving. Kira's people, she explained, believed in elegant solutions that did things the correct way. Everything had its proper place and function. Ben's human philosophy was more practical. Use whatever worked, even if it looked terrible. "Your ship's life support system is a work of art," Ben admitted. "It recycles air and water with 98% efficiency, using biological filters I've never seen before. And your backup system uses chemical scrubbers and mechanical pumps," Kira replied. "Inefficient and wasteful, but simple and reliable. If your biofilters get contaminated, your whole crew suffocates. If my chemical scrubbers fail, I swap in new ones and keep breathing. You plan for everything to break, because everything does break eventually. The trick is making sure you can keep going when it happens." By the end of the 3rd day, Ben had the ship's systems running again. His repairs were a patchwork of human and alien technology, held together by determination and electrical tape. The navigation system looked like something built by a mad scientist, with exposed wires and blinking lights everywhere. "It is hideous," Kira said, but there was admiration in her voice. "Beauty is in the eye of the beholder," Ben replied. "To me, it's beautiful because it works." He activated the ship's power systems, and lights flickered on throughout the vessel. The gravity generator hummed to life, and the air recyclers began their quiet operation. It was not perfect, but it was functional. "I can have you ready to fly in the morning," Ben said. "Where are you headed?" Kira hesitated. "I am not sure yet. Somewhere safe." Running from something? She looked at him with those strange, glowing eyes. Why do you not ask more questions? Most people would want to know who I really am. Ben shrugged. None of my business. You needed help. I helped. That's enough for me. For a moment, Kira looked like she might say something more. Then she simply nodded. Thank you, Ben Carter. Your kindness will not be forgotten. As Ben cleaned up his tools, he wondered what kind of trouble his customer was really in. The battle damage, the expensive ship, the knowledge of distant empires. None of it added up to a simple trader. But he had learned long ago that sometimes the best help you could give someone was to not ask too many questions. Tomorrow, she would be gone, and his life would return to normal. He had no way of knowing that normal was about to become a thing of the past. The alarm that woke Ben was not his usual morning buzzer, but the station-wide emergency signal that meant serious trouble. He rolled out of his narrow bunk and stumbled to the small window of his living quarters above the shop. What he saw made his blood run cold. A formation of warships hung in space beyond the asteroid field. They were the same design as Kira's vessel, but much larger, bristling with weapon arrays that could reduce Dust Rock Station to scrap metal in minutes. The ships were beautiful in the way that predators were beautiful. Sleek, deadly, and absolutely terrifying. Ben pulled on his clothes and rushed downstairs to his shop. Kira was already there, standing perfectly still as she stared at a handheld device that displayed the alien fleet. Her face had gone pale, and her glowing eyes seemed dimmer than usual. Friends of yours? Ben asked, though he already knew the answer. No, Kira whispered. Not friends. The station's communication system crackled to life. Attention, Dust Rock Station, came a cold, authoritative voice speaking perfect standard. This is General Ronan of the Celestial Imperial Fleet. We are in pursuit of a dangerous criminal who has stolen an Imperial vessel. Surrender the fugitive immediately, and no harm will come to your station. Ben looked at Kira, who seemed to shrink into herself. Criminal, huh? Guess that trading story was pretty thin. I am not a criminal, Kira said quietly. I am the rightful heir to the celestial throne. My name is not Kira. It is Princess Arya. 3 weeks ago, my uncle murdered my parents and seized power. I barely escaped with my life. The pieces fell into place in Ben's mind. The expensive ship, the knowledge of Imperial technology, the way she carried herself with unconscious authority. She was not just nobility, she was royalty on the run. So those ships out there want to finish the job? Arya nodded. My uncle cannot allow me to live. As long as I exist, his claim to the throne is illegitimate. He will stop at nothing to capture me. Station Administrator Mills's voice came over the intercom. This is Administrator Mills of Dust Rock Station. We are a civilian mining facility. We have no involvement in Imperial politics. General Ronan's reply was sharp. Scans indicate the stolen vessel is on your station. You have 1 hour to turn over the fugitive, or we will consider you accomplices and act accordingly. Ben felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories about what happened when advanced alien civilizations decided humans were in their way. The outcome was never good for the humans. I have to go, Arya said urgently. If I try to escape, they might leave the station alone. In what ship? Ben pointed to her vessel, which was still surrounded by his repair equipment. You're not going anywhere in that. It needs another 6 hours of work before it's space-worthy. Then I will surrender. I will not let innocent people die because of me. Ben stared at her. In the 3 days he had known her, he had seen Kira, the frightened refugee. Now he was seeing Princess Arya, someone raised to put duty before personal safety. It was admirable and completely stupid at the same time. There's a third option, Ben said, moving to an old control panel in the corner of his shop. What are you doing? Something probably very dumb. Ben activated the panel, and heavy blast shutters slammed down over his shop's windows and doors. A low hum filled the air as generators came online. Military surplus shield generator, bought it cheap from a decommissioned patrol ship. The shop was suddenly bathed in a blue glow as an energy barrier formed around the entire structure. Ben's little repair facility had become a fortress. "This will not hold them for long," Arya warned. "Imperial weapons will cut through that barrier in minutes." "Maybe, but it gives us time to get your ship finished." Ben grabbed his tools and headed for the vessel. "You said 6 hours? Let's see if we can do it in 1. Why are you helping me? You could turn me over to them and collect whatever reward they are offering. It would solve all your financial problems." Ben paused in his work. It was a fair question. The smart play would be to hand her over, claim ignorance, and hope the aliens left peacefully. But when he looked at Arya, he did not see a princess or a political prize. He saw someone who had trusted him when she had no reason to. Someone who was willing to sacrifice herself to protect strangers. "Because it's the right thing to do," he said simply. "And because you trusted me with the truth." Outside, he could hear the sounds of Imperial troops moving through the station. They were conducting a systematic search, checking every shop and living quarters. It would not take them long to reach the outer ring where Ben's shop was located. Ben worked faster than he ever had in his life, his hands flying over the ship's controls as he made final adjustments to his jury-rigged systems. Arya helped where she could, her knowledge of Imperial technology proving invaluable in integrating his human repairs with her ship's original systems. "The navigation computer is still unstable," she reported. "It keeps losing synchronization with the drive core." "I can fix that." Ben crawled under the console and began rewiring connections. "Your people build everything to tight tolerances. My stuff is designed to work even when half the components are failing." A thunderous impact shook the entire shop. The Imperial troops had found them and were testing the strength of his shields. Ben could see energy blasts splashing against the blue barrier, each hit making the generators whine with strain. "Ben Carter," came General Ronan's amplified voice, "you are harboring a traitor to the Celestial Empire. Lower your shields immediately and surrender the fugitive." "Counteroffer," Ben shouted back. "Go away and leave us alone." Another series of blasts hit the shields. The generators were running hot, and Ben could smell ozone in the air. His barriers would not hold much longer. "Navigation is online," Arya called out, "but the docking clamps are still attached." Ben looked at the massive mechanical arms that held the ship in place. Normally they would be retracted from a control room, but the Imperial attack had damaged the automated systems. Someone would have to release them manually from outside the ship. "I'll get them," Ben said, grabbing a plasma cutter. "No." Arya caught his arm. "If you go out there, they will kill you. And if I stay in here, we all die when the shields fail." Ben gently removed her hand from his arm. "Get the ship ready to launch. When you see those clamps release, you go. Don't wait for me. I will not leave you behind." "You will, because that's an order from your mechanic." Ben managed to smile. Besides, someone needs to live to tell people that Ben Carter fixed the impossible ship. The shields flickered and sparked. They had maybe 30 seconds before total failure. Ben hit the controls to open his shop's rear airlock. The moment the door opened, energy blasts filled the air around him. He rolled behind a cargo container and began working his way toward the docking clamps. The Imperial troops were closing in from all sides. Ben could hear their boots on the metal decking, their voices coordinating the assault. He reached the first clamp and began cutting through the release mechanism with his plasma torch. "There he is," someone shouted in the alien language. Energy bolts sizzled past Ben's head as he finished with the first clamp and moved to the second. The smell of melted metal filled his nostrils. Almost there. The second clamp released with a loud clang. Ben looked back at Arya's ship and saw her in the cockpit, her face pressed against the transparent aluminum viewport. Their eyes met for just a moment. "Go," he shouted. The ship's engines roared to life, Ben's hybrid human-alien propulsion system pushing the vessel up and out of the docking bay. He watched it disappear into space, heading for the jump coordinates Arya had programmed. Imperial troops surrounded him, their weapons trained on his chest. General Ronan approached, his alien features twisted with rage. "Where is she going?" he demanded. Ben spat blood and grinned. "Somewhere you'll never find her." The last thing he saw before they stunned him unconscious was Arya's ship vanishing into hyperspace, carrying his repairs and his hopes into the vast darkness between the stars. As Ben fell, he felt oddly satisfied. For once in his life, he had done something that really mattered. He had helped someone who needed it, and he had done it right. The consequences would have to take care of themselves. General Ronan stood over Ben's unconscious form in the wreckage of the repair shop, his elegant alien features twisted with fury. The shields had finally failed, and Imperial troops swarmed through the facility, searching for any trace of where the princess might have gone. Their scanners found nothing useful. The humans' crude backup systems had somehow masked her ship's jump signature. "Bring him to the detention center," Ronan ordered, gesturing at Ben. "I want him conscious and ready for questioning within the hour." "General," one of his officers approached nervously. "The station administrator is requesting a meeting. The humans are agitated about our presence." Ronan's laugh was cold. "Let them be agitated. They harbored a fugitive from Imperial justice. Their opinions are irrelevant." "Sir, we have word from the capital. Prince Valdris wants the princess captured alive if possible. He says a public trial would strengthen his legitimacy. Then we had better find her quickly." Ronan looked around the destroyed shop, noting the ingenious way the human had combined technologies that should never work together. This mechanic helped her escape. He will tell us where she went, willingly or otherwise. Meanwhile, Administrator Mills paced frantically in his office as reports flooded in from across the station. The alien search was becoming increasingly aggressive, and his security forces were powerless to stop it. Dust Rock Station survived because it stayed neutral in galactic politics, but neutrality meant nothing when a superior military force decided you were an enemy. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving encrypted transmissions from the outer colonies. It looks like there's some kind of civil war happening in celestial space." Mills grabbed the data pad and scanned the intelligence. Reports, conflicting claims about the rightful ruler, fleet movements, battles between Imperial forces. The situation was far more complex than a simple fugitive chase. "Get me a secure channel to Earth Command," Mills ordered. "They need to know what's happening out here." 3 levels below, Ben slowly regained consciousness in a sterile detention cell. His head pounded from the stun blast, and his mouth tasted like metal. Through the transparent barrier that served as a door, he could see Imperial guards standing watch in their sleek armor. A few minutes later, General Ronan entered the cell accompanied by 2 technicians carrying devices Ben did not recognize. The alien general was tall and imposing with the kind of bearing that came from a lifetime of command. "Mr. Carter," Ronan said, his standard pronunciation perfect but lacking warmth, "you have caused me considerable inconvenience." "Sorry about that," Ben replied, not sounding sorry at all. "Maybe next time you should knock before breaking down someone's door." "Your humor is misplaced. You aided a traitor to the Celestial Empire. That crime carries severe penalties." "She didn't seem like a traitor to me. Seemed like someone running for her life." Ronan's eyes narrowed. "The princess has filled your head with lies. Prince Valdris is the rightful ruler now. The old regime was corrupt and weak, maybe, but I don't make political decisions, I just fix ships and help people who need it." "How noble." Ronan gestured to the technicians who began setting up their equipment. "Unfortunately, your nobility has consequences. Where did you send her?" "No idea. She didn't exactly file a flight plan with me." The technicians activated their devices, and Ben felt a strange tingling sensation in his mind. Some kind of telepathic probe, he realized. They were going to search his memories directly. "Your primitive human mind cannot resist our techniques," Ronan explained. "We will extract every detail of your interaction with the princess, including any information she may have shared about her allies or destination." The mental intrusion felt like ice water flooding his skull. Ben gritted his teeth and tried to focus on anything except Arya's escape route. He thought about engine repairs, about the smell of welding fumes, about his father's old tools. The alien technicians frowned and increased the power. "He is resisting," one of them reported. Human neural patterns are more chaotic than expected. Increase the intensity, Ronan ordered. Pain exploded through Ben's head as the probe dug deeper. But human minds, shaped by evolution and hardship, were surprisingly resilient. Where alien thoughts flowed in orderly patterns, human consciousness was a maze of emotions, memories, and stubborn will. The probe found traces of Arya's presence but could not extract clear information about her plans. The data is fragmented, the technician reported after several agonizing minutes. We can see that she accessed navigation charts, but the specific coordinates are encrypted in his subconscious associations. Ronan's patience was wearing thin. Then we will use more direct methods. He activated a communication device. Prepare the execution chamber. We will make an example of this human. That seems extreme for fixing someone's ship, Ben managed to say through the pain. You cost me the princess, Ronan replied. Your death will serve as a warning to other humans who might consider interfering in celestial affairs. They dragged Ben to a larger chamber where Imperial engineers had set up what looked like a sophisticated torture device. The plan was clear: execute him publicly to terrorize the station into compliance and discourage anyone else from helping Arya. As they strapped him into the device, Ben wondered if he had made the right choice. Arya was probably safe by now, but he was about to pay for her freedom with his life. Was one person's life worth his own, even if that person was a princess? He thought about the 3 days they had spent working together. She had been genuinely grateful for his help, genuinely interested in his work. She had treated him like an equal despite being alien royalty. In his experience, people revealed their true character when they were desperate and afraid. Arya had shown him kindness, curiosity, and courage. Yes, it had been worth it. The execution device powered up with a high-pitched whine. Ben closed his eyes and tried not to think about all the things he would never get to do. He had lived a simple life, but it had been his life, and he had tried to do right by people. Any last words, human? General Ronan asked. Ben opened his eyes and looked directly at the alien general. Yeah, you're making a big mistake. And why is that? Because Princess Arya is everything you're not. Smart, brave, and decent. When she comes back, and she will come back, you're going to regret every choice that brought you to this moment. Ronan's face darkened with anger. She will never return. The princess is a fugitive with no allies and no fleet. We'll see about that, Ben said quietly. The general raised his hand to signal the executioner. The device reached full power, energy crackling between its focusing arrays. Ben took a deep breath and prepared for the end. Then the universe exploded into light and thunder. Massive ships dropped out of hyperspace all around Dust Rock Station, their hulls gleaming with Imperial markings. But these vessels were different from Ronan's fleet. Older, more traditional in design, with heraldic symbols that Ben did not recognize. General Ronan, came a new voice over the communication channels, cold and absolutely furious. Stand down immediately and prepare to surrender your command. Ronan stared at the displays in shock. Impossible. The loyal fleets were destroyed. Apparently not, Ben said with a weak grin. Looks like the princess found some friends after all. Through the station's viewports, Ben could see the two fleets facing each other in tense formation. Ronan's ships were outnumbered 3-1, but they were newer and more heavily armed. The confrontation could go either way. This changes nothing, Ronan snarled. The human dies regardless. But as his finger moved toward the execution control, the chamber's main door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. Princess Arya stepped through the smoking doorway. But she was no longer the frightened refugee who had crashed into Ben's life 4 days ago. She wore ceremonial armor that seemed to be made of liquid starlight, and a crown of crystalline metal rested on her head. Behind her marched a squad of Imperial guards whose loyalty was written in every disciplined step. "Uncle," she said, her voice carrying an authority that made the air itself seem to vibrate. "You will release my friend immediately." General Ronan stepped back from the execution device, his face cycling through shock, fear, and desperate calculation. "Princess, how did you—" How did I rally the outer fleets to my cause? How did I return so quickly? How did I penetrate your defenses? Arya walked slowly into the chamber, her glowing eyes fixed on her uncle's general. The answers are simple: loyalty, determination, and superior planning. Ben blinked in amazement as Imperial soldiers freed him from the execution device. The difference in Arya was stunning. Gone was the uncertain girl who had asked his opinion about ship repairs. This was an Empress in full command of her power. The outer colonies never accepted your uncle's coup, she continued, addressing Ronan as if he were a disappointing student. They were waiting for proof that I lived. When I arrived in a ship repaired with impossible hybrid technology, carrying tales of human courage and ingenuity, they knew I was the true heir. Impossible, Ronan breathed. Prince Valdris commands the home fleet. He controls the capital. My uncle controlled the capital, Arya corrected. Past tense. Admiral Hayes of the 3rd Colonial Fleet delivered my message to him personally this morning. Uncle Valdris chose exile over execution. He always was a coward. Ben struggled to process what he was hearing. In 4 days, Arya had somehow crossed half the galaxy, convinced alien military commanders to support her claim, and organized a counter-revolution that toppled an interstellar empire. It seemed impossible. How? He asked weakly. Arya turned to him with a smile that was both regal and genuinely warm. Your repairs, Ben Carter. No Imperial ship could have made the journey I required. But your hybrid navigation system, your redundant power grids, your inelegant but unbreakable engineering, they carried me safely through jump routes that would have destroyed any purely celestial vessel. She gestured to one of her guards, who brought forward a data pad displaying technical schematics. My engineers have been studying your work. They call it aggressive simplification, the art of making complex systems foolproof by making them fundamentally robust. It's just good sense, Ben said, still trying to wrap his head around the situation. To you, perhaps. To us, it was revolutionary. The outer fleet commanders were so impressed by the concept that they began implementing similar modifications to their own ships. Arya's expression grew serious. You taught us something important about the difference between elegance and effectiveness. General Ronan, seeing his cause was lost, made one last desperate move. He lunged for a weapon on the floor, clearly intending to kill either Ben or Arya before he could be captured. But Ben, despite his exhaustion and injuries, was faster. Years of working with dangerous machinery had given him quick reflexes. He tackled the general, and they both crashed to the floor. Imperial guards quickly subdued Ronan, dragging him away, in restraints. As they left, Ben heard him shouting about human interference in alien affairs and demanding to know how primitive mechanics had defeated Imperial technology. He will be tried for treason and murder, Arya said simply. But that is not your concern. She helped Ben to his feet, and he was struck again by how different she seemed. The scared girl was gone, replaced by someone who commanded starships and decided the fate of worlds. It was intimidating and impressive at the same time. So what happens now? Ben asked. I guess you don't need ship repairs anymore. Arya laughed, a sound like silver bells that echoed strangely in the damaged chamber. I have an offer for you, Ben Carter. How would you like to become chief engineer of the Imperial fleet? Ben blinked. That's quite an honor, but I think I'll pass. You refuse? Arya looked genuinely surprised. Nothing personal. It's just that I like my life here. Simple work, simple problems, simple solutions. Imperial politics sounds way too complicated for a guy like me. For a moment, Arya studied him with those glowing eyes. Then she nodded slowly. You continue to surprise me. Most beings would jump at such an opportunity. Most beings probably didn't grow up fixing mining equipment for beer money. Then perhaps I can offer something more suitable. Arya gestured, and one of her guards brought forward an ornate scroll. I hereby declare Dust Rock Station an official trade partner of the Celestial Empire. Ben Carter's repair facility is designated as the primary maintenance contractor for all diplomatic vessels in this sector. Ben stared at the document written in flowing alien script with official seals that seemed to glow with their own light. What does that mean exactly? It means you will have more work than you can handle, all at premium rates. It means imperial protection for this station and all its inhabitants, and it means that your hybrid engineering techniques will be studied and implemented throughout the Empire. The implications slowly sank in. Ben's little repair shop would become the center of human-alien technological cooperation. His crude but effective methods would influence the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, and he would finally be able to pay his bills without worrying about where the next job was coming from. There is one condition, Arya added with a slight smile. You must promise to maintain the highest standards of craftsmanship. The reputation of both our peoples will rest on the quality of your work. I can live with that, Ben said. Fair. Price, good work. That's still my promise. 6 months later, Ben stood in his expanded workshop, watching a team of human and alien engineers collaborate on a new hybrid propulsion system. His little repair shop had grown into a proper facility, but he had insisted on keeping the original garage exactly as it was, complete with his father's old tools and the workbench where he had first met Arya. The trade partnership had transformed not just his business, but the entire station. Dust Rock had become a hub of interspecies cooperation, with humans and aliens working together to solve engineering problems that neither could handle alone. Ben's philosophy of robust, adaptable design was spreading throughout both civilizations. Soft chime indicated an incoming message. Ben activated his communication console and Arya's image appeared, transmitted from the Imperial capital thousands of light years away. How is the new fusion drive project progressing? She asked. Ahead of schedule, Ben reported. Your engineers are finally starting to think like humans. They're building in failure modes and redundant systems. And our human partners. They're learning to appreciate elegance. Yesterday I saw Rodriguez spend 2 hours perfecting the curve of a hull panel that nobody will ever see. Arya smiled. Good. When different approaches combine, the result is often stronger than either alone. She paused, and her expression grew more personal. Ben, I wanted you to know that the Empire is implementing your hybrid design principles across our entire fleet. You have quite literally changed the way we think about engineering. Just glad I could help. You did more than help. You saved my life, and in doing so you saved the Empire from a tyrant. History will remember your kindness. After the call ended, Ben returned to his work. On his desk sat a small pendant made from a piece of Arya's original ship, the only payment he had kept from their first meeting. It reminded him that sometimes the most important work a person could do was simply treating others with decency and respect. The universe was vast and full of wonders beyond imagination. Advanced aliens commanded technologies that seemed like magic, and empires rose and fell among the stars. But at the end of the day, what mattered most were the simple things: doing good work, keeping your word, and helping people when they needed it. Ben picked up his wrench and got back to work. Somewhere in the galaxy, Empress Arya was building a better empire based partly on lessons learned in a cluttered repair shop. And here on Dust Rock Station, a former poor mechanic was building a better future one repair at a time. It was, he reflected, a pretty good trade.